What is something that most people won't believe, but is actually true? Humans can smell some components of the smell of rain, the geosmin part of petrichor, specifically, far better than sharks can smell blood in water. We are very, very sensitive to it. Closing square bracket, opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. It's such a great smell, too. One of my favorite parts of quitting smoking has been that I can smell the rain again. I couldn't for years when I smoked. I quit smoking a couple weeks ago and it has been absolutely miserable. I needed to hear this today. Thank you. Hey, me too. I quit cigs earlier this year, been vaping and tapering off. I know it's not the way, but it's progress. When my niece was born a few years ago, I was heartbroken that I couldn't smell the new baby smell everyone talks about. My nephew was born earlier this year. There is no greater smell than that new baby head smell. I cried like a child meeting him, and none of my nieces or nephews has a bond to me like he does. He wants me to hold him, because I don't stink anymore. He cuddles into me like he's trying to cuddle my heart through my ribs. I'm living something I thought I'd never get to. You can do this. We can do this. Orcas eat moose. For the people wondering, there's apparently some prime moss and shit underwater, so moose can swim and dive to get it, and that's where fucking orcas come in. That must be some primo herb. Well, it's nicely salted. Y'all making me want ramen with seaweed. Komodo dragons usually reproduce sexually, but females in captivity have been known to reproduce by parthenogenesis, without the need for sperm. Parthenogenesis can also happen extremely rarely in birds. Also, bonus fact, aphids are born pregnant. For example, the extremely rare Californian condor is known to have some cases of parthenogenesis. Another example, the velociraptor in Jurassic World. Everest is nowhere close to being the farthest away from the center of the Earth. The top of Chimborazo in Ecuador is 2.1 kilometers farther away. Even crazier is that Chimborazo isn't even the highest mountain in the Andes. I appreciate seeing a genuine fun fact on here. Fun fact: if you shrunk the Earth down to the size of a snooker ball, it'd be smoother than a snooker ball. Extra fun fact: if you shrunk the Earth down to the size of a snooker ball, you'd be responsible for killing more people than anybody in history. The rope around the Earth problem: take a rope tied tautly around a basketball. Now the rope must be lengthened so that there is a 1-foot gap between the ball and the rope at all points, as if the rope is hovering a foot away around the entirety of the ball. How much must the rope be lengthened to accomplish this? 6.28 feet. Now take a rope tied tautly around the equator of the Earth. We have the same goal for the 1-foot hovering gap around the entirety of the Earth. How far must the rope be lengthened? 6.28 feet. And #X200B. This is so counterintuitive, just about no one will believe it until shown the math. I disagree. I'm sure you are correct, but I disagree. LMAO, I feel you. Almonds are from the peach family. Well, inside of the hard center, sometimes they open. There is a seed very similar to an almond, although with higher cyanide levels. They also taste str. RIP. An infinite supply of food would not solve world hunger. We actually have more than enough food to end world hunger. The issue is with distribution, logistics. Yep, so Thanos was an idiot. The snap would have fucked up supply chains even more, as explained by his assistant. He should have used the stones to create an amazing trucking company, FFS. Thanos Trucking, we'll be there in a snap. You can't look me straight in the eyes and tell me he wouldn't look great in a trucker hat. Strawberry is not a berry, but banana is. My fruit jam isn't what I thought it was. That's a very jarring experience. The northernmost point in Brazil is closer to Canada than it is to the southernmost point in Brazil. Your comment reminded me of a post I saw on Instagram saying, the westernmost point of China is closer to Germany than to the easternmost point of China, with a map showing the distances, and everyone in the comments misunderstood it, reading the sentence without to in, then to the. Shows why reading comprehension is such an important skill. Even if you have the right info out there, there are some people who won't understand. Pineapples take 3 years to grow. I don't know, that sounds about right to me. Seeing them the way they're grown is really interesting too. Same with cashews. Just a weird look. No kidding? I would have never thought a cashew would take that long. I remember hearing somewhere that some grapes used for wine take 10 growing seasons or more until the plant will produce grapes good enough for wine. I don't think he was saying cashews take 3 years to grow. He was saying they look really weird on the plant. Look up a cashew plant, you'll see. A lot of these answers aren't even things I wouldn't believe. They're just things I straight up didn't know. Interesting thread. Weird fact, but I'll take it. Some tortoises can breathe through their butthole. As the old joke goes, a smart hedgehog once learned to breathe through his butthole. He sat down on a stump to think and choked. Guess you had to have been there. There would be a lot more ancient Egyptian mummies if we didn't grind most of them up to paint with or eat. You can't just say that and not fucking explain anything. The answer is, Victorians be whack. Mummy brown was a very popular paint pigment for the time, creating a rich brown color that couldn't easily be replicated, and eating bits of mummies, mixed into other things mind you, it was considered a medicine and not a food, was thought to possibly cure diseases. Probably had zero scientific backing behind it even back in the day, but trendy rich people are trendy rich people no matter the era. Mummy brown predates the Victorian period by a couple centuries. Mummies were also sold as firewood because when in the desert and not a lot of stuff to burn to cook with, so many mummies were burned, sold as paint pigment, and as party centerpieces. Look up mummy unwrappings. Victorians were fucking weird, that fake mummies had to be made with bodies of executed criminals to keep up with demand. Sharks are older than trees. And older than the rings of Saturn. That's way crazier. There's more time between the first and last dinosaurs than the last dinosaurs and us. There's more time between the construction of the Great Pyramid in Egypt and the time of Cleopatra than between the time of Cleopatra and now. The ducks at the pond are free. How many do you have? I bet you'd like to know. The CIA will have to do better than that to catch me. The shortest commercial flight in the world lasted 57 seconds. It was a Loganair flight between two Scottish islands, Westray and Papa Westray. It was recorded the shortest commercial flight, with a distance of 1.7 miles. What's crazy is that flight distance is less than the length of the runway at Heathrow. The Wright brothers' first flight was 120 feet. The Mariah was 280 feet long. The cargo hold alone was 140 feet long. More plastic flamingos exist on Earth than living flamingos. The same is true for unicorns. There are more unicorns on Earth than flamingos? Wild. Humans are the best long-distance runners in the animal kingdom. At moderate or higher temperatures. At very cold temperatures, I think Siberian huskies overtake us. Yeah, huskies will run while pulling a sled for an entire day, multiple days in a row. Very few humans can even attempt that. Ultra-marathoners run for days, it's insane. Check out the Moab race. I don't get it, apparently you micro-sleep automatically while running at night. Makes no sense at all. I've never ran a marathon. But I did hike for about 36 hours straight one time to catch our only ride out of the backcountry. An injury had slowed the group, but they were eventually heli-vacked out. Anyways, micro-sleeps while still moving down a trail is absolutely a real thing. Hours 12 to 16 were the hardest. At a certain point you reach an exhaustion equilibrium and your body just stops telling you to stop. The last 12 hours were surprisingly fun, lots of giggling and shared suffering, but I don't remember it super well. I used to be in the army. During the first Iraqi elections, we patrolled for an entire week. Nobody laid down to sleep, and we had very little food. Sometimes I would hallucinate, or sometimes I would wake up in a different place entirely. Every now and again I would purposely go to sleep, if we had time, and wake up patrolling a neighborhood. I still think that week fucked me up permanently, 'cause I've had issues with sleep ever since. I'm shocked by the amount of people that refuse to believe narwhals are real animals. I've got one tattooed on my forearm, so I probably get people talking to me about them more often than normal lol. It usually ends in me pulling up pictures on Google, and them still being skeptical. I accidentally caused several debunking YouTube channels to prove the blue-footed booby, Sulanabuxi, is a real bird. They're kind of like seagulls except with bright blue feet and beaks similar to the extinct dodo. Another real bird with a weird name is the great tit, Perus major. It is just a small bird that looks similar to a finch or a chickadee. Fun fact: there are also brown-footed boobies, almost exactly the same genetically, but won't mate because they dance differently, so now we have two distinct boobies. Vegetable is a culinary term for savory fruit or tubers, are leaves, and has never been rigidly defined. When people say tomatoes are a fruit, they're ignoring the distinctions made when you jump over from botany to cooking. What's that saying? Intelligence is knowing a tomato is a fruit, Wisdom is knowing not to put it in your fruit salad. Edit. All these people trying to say how it could be used lol, they are either being annoyingly pedantic or have never seen a fruit salad.